Yo, what's good, Sean? In today's video, I'm about to show you guys how to make a sword combat system, a beginner-friendly version, and yeah, let's go ahead and get straight into it. Okay, so first things first, if you guys cannot see the Explorer or Properties tab, just click Window, open up Explorer Properties. Also, you need the output open. Make sure you have this open as well. If you don't have it open, then just click it. You need the output to be able to debug code. You'll see errors and stuff here, which will help you figure out any issues you encounter. All right, let's go ahead and get straight into it. So first things first, right? The first thing I believe we need to do is, of course, create a sword. Now, if you already have your sword model or you want to use one from the toolbox, that's fine. I'm just gonna create like a place where I'm just a scripter. I'm not like a model or anything, so it's not gonna be anything glorious. But yeah. So let's create the blade itself first. So we'll make it skinny. I just inserted a part, right? We could just call this. This is going to be our blade, right? Um, Maybe something like that, and then make it a little skinnier. Yeah, something like that, perhaps. Yeah, like that. And then maybe a little shorter. I think like, yeah. Okay. So this will be our blade, right? This is going to be our blade. Let's set some properties. Disable can collide. Then we of course need a side part. So we need like the side part. So we'll shrink that down a little bit, and then we will tack that on. So like, let me drag this over here. Yep, like right here. So something like, yep, just like that. And then I'll scale this out. Maybe move it up a little bit. Possibly. Just a little, yeah, like a little higher. Yeah, something like that. Then I'll move it over a little bit. And there we go. Okay. We literally will just call this right part. Right. Then I'm going to duplicate this, right click, duplicate, or control plus D. Then I'm just going to drag this over to the other side, and then boom. There we go. Now we have a sword. Very nice. And then just make sure, of course, you rename this to be left part. And then, of course, you want to make sure that none of these parts can collide is enabled, right? So from there, now we need the handle, right? We finished the sword. We need to create a handle part. If you don't know what a handle part is, it's a part. This is the part of the tool where the player's hand is going to be. Like, this is where they're going to hold the sword, right? So let's create that real quick. Actually, no. I was gonna say we rotate that, but never mind. We don't need to. Okay, so drop this down a little bit. It's gonna be like a really tiny part. It's gonna be like right here. So like right here. We'll go up, and then yep. We'll say this part right here. This is where they will hold the sword. Move it in a little bit, kind of, and then over. There we go. Okay, this is gonna be our handle. So for the handle, you want to make sure this is invisible. The player should not know this is there, pretty much, right? And you have to name this handle. You have to name this handle. It will only recognize it if it's named handle. Disable can collide. And then what we can do is plus icon on workspace. You're going to add a tool. This is going to be our sword. Then you can just drag and drop all of our parts. I just highlighted and selected all of them, or you could manually do, or you could individually do it, then just drag them into the sword. Now, here's what we need to do. We need to weld all these parts together, because right now it'll just fall apart, right? We need to weld these parts together. So let's weld everything, right? Very simple. So, let's let's weld the handle to the blade. So inside of handle, yeah, let's do it like this. Yeah, so we'll insert a weld constraint into the handle, set part 0 to be the handle, part 1 to be the blade. Then for the left part, again, weld constraint, part 0, the left part, and then we're pretty much just welding everything to the blade, right? Whatever part is connected to, which just so happens to all be the blade. Weld constraint, part 0, or sorry, wrong thing. Part 0, right part, then part 1, the blade. There we go. Everything is welded together, and so now we have a sword, and all the parts are connected. Only issue we're going to run into is that the sword is not going to, its orientation is going to be off, which means it's going to be like rotated, or we're going to be holding it wrong, but we can fix that, though. We actually, actually, let's go ahead and fix that now. So drag your sword into starter pack once you're done, so we automatically spawn with it. Let's go ahead and fix that now. So if you hit play, right, let's test real quick. So you see, I'm holding it, but it's wrong. I mean, it's kind of cool. It's kind of a cool way to hold the sword, but oh, oh my goodness, wow! I did not, I did not realize the parts were that big. You're not supposed to be that big. But anyway, so we need to rotate it, right? So go to workspace, find your character. While the sword is equipped, you want to click the sword, And then right here, you can adjust its orientation. So just play around with this until it's looking how you need it to. X is left and right, Y is up and down, Z is forward and backward. Okay, so the X orientation is obviously fine, so let's try Y. Nope, that's just gonna bring it out. So then we need to change Z. Okay, let's do 90. There we go. Okay. I want to be frank, I'm not gonna lie. Is this how you hold a sword? Maybe I'm tripping, because I feel like you hold a sword like this. Yeah, I feel like you hold a sword like this. Okay, but it doesn't really matter. You guys can hold the sword whatever way you want to, right? But yeah. So let's go ahead, right? So as you can see, we have orientation. This is not going to save, right? Because we are currently playing the game. Our changes won't save. So copy the current orientation for the sword. You're going to stop testing. You're then going to head on over to sword, right? Once you stop testing, and then you're going to paste this. Boom. Now it'll work just fine. I'm gonna edit the parts real quick. I'm gonna edit the parts real quick. So let me just do that real quick. Oh, wait, why isn't it? Oh, wrong thing. Okay, so drag this up a little bit. Okay, here's what I'm gonna do. I'm going to drop these down somewhere. So like, yep, there we go, like that. And then boom, over a little bit. And then I think I'm gonna move these up a little bit more. Maybe I think that's good. Yeah, I think it should be good. Okay, cool. Then we can just drag our sword back to starter pack. Okay. All right. Now let's go on ahead and let's move on to the next thing. Let's go ahead and create a remote event. So head on over to replicated storage right here, plus icon, remote events. Name this event combat event. So we're going to use this remote event to communicate between the server and the client, right? So I do want to say so two things, right? You're going to need assets. You're going to need animations and you're going to need sounds, right? So I get all my animations and sounds from the toolbox, Windows toolbox. I get all my stuff from here. I have videos on how to get assets, like how to publish, like how to find animations on the toolbox, then publish them, get their ID, and etc. etc. I have videos on that. If you need that video, let me know in the comments. I'll go ahead and just reply to it if you can't find it on your own. But yeah. So I have my sounds. One is for sword hit, and others for sword swing. So swing is when you're just swinging the sword. Hit is when you make contact. Again, I got these sounds from the toolbox. Literally go to the toolbox and just search up like sword hit, sword swing. You'll just find your own sounds, and then just drag them over to sound service when you're done. It's that simple. So like literally, if you go to toolbox, right here, and then just go all the way down. I don't know why they put audio at the bottom, but yeah, then you just type sword and then yeah, you have a whole bunch of things. Then you could just click it, whichever one you like, and then just drag it down to sound service, right? Okay, cool. From there, I think we're now ready to start scripting. So starter player, then starter player scripts, plus icon, local script. Before we get into the coding, one last thing, animations. Again, I have videos on how to get animations and how to do all that. So if you need that, let me know. But yeah, so we're gonna hit the plus icon. We're going to add our animations to our local script. So for the first thing, we're going to name it sword M1 animation. In parentheses, we're gonna put one. This is this to signify that this is for the first swing, right? Like this is the left swing. Then the second one will be the right swing. We'll know because we're going 1 2 1 2 1 2, right? Then we can go ahead and right click and duplicate, and then we can change this 1 to a 2 in parentheses, right? And then we need our animation IDs. These are my animation IDs from the animations that I got. These IDs won't work for you. You have to use your own animation. It's not that you have to create them, you just have to publish ones. You can find them on Toolbox and stuff like that. Again, I have videos on that. But anyway, so once you have your animation IDs, paste them, copy and paste them into the animation ID property, and then boom. Okay, now we can actually get started with the scripting. So we named the script to be core scripts, or no, let's do combat script actually. Combat script in parentheses put local. We will delete print hello world, right? And then now we can get started with the code. Okay, so we need to create variables for probably like a million different things. So first, let's get our services. Let's get the user input service. Local UIS is equal to game get service user input service, short for user input service. That's how we're going to detect user input. Then we need a variable for the sound service. So SS for short is equal to game get service sound service for playing our sounds. Then we will get our local player, so player, is equal to game.players.local player. Then we will create a variable for our remote events that we created in replicated storage. So combat event is equal to game.replicated storage, wait for child, combat events. Remember, that's what we created up here. Moving on to the next thing, we will then create an M1 tracker. So M1 tracker is equal to 1, right? And then from here, wait, I feel like I'm supposed to, I feel like I forgot to do something in the sword. If I did, it's fine. We'll come back to it. But anyway, so yeah, so M1 tracker for 1. So I do want to clarify something. All of the like proper and necessary validation and checks and stuff is performed on the server side. Anything you see on the client side that's being checked is just simply just for the sake of like just making sure like just it's like it's like a base level defense, right? The kind of thing. Like it's like we don't want animations, we don't want the wrong animation to play. But let's say there's an exploiter that tries to mess things up, it doesn't matter because the server side will verify everything. So just bear with me. So that then we will keep track of whether or not the player is currently attacking. So attacking is equal to false. We'll set this is true when they're attacking. Again, we'll verify on the server so they won't be able to attack if they're currently already attacking. So they can't like bypass cooldowns and whatnot. This is just simply so that animations won't keep playing, right? Then we need to of course check to make sure that the um, player has the sword equipped. So by default it's the false, right? Then we of course need our sword itself is equal to player dot backpack wait for child sword. Then we need to create a variable for our player's character. So is equal to player dot character, or if it hasn't loaded yet, player dot character added wait, right? Then we will create a table for our animation. So animation is equal to special brackets. This is how we create a table. Enter regular bracket 1. So for the first thing, this will of course be our sword M1 animation is equal to, we're just going to go ahead and load our animation. So character.humanoid.animator load animation. In parentheses, you're going to put script, regular bracket, and then you're going to get the sword M1 animation 1. You're going to throw a comma at the end, and then you can just copy and paste to save time. So just Control C, Control V, copy and paste pretty much. Then just change these 1s to a 2. Boom, and boom. Okay, now our animations are loaded. Let's go ahead and get to our functions. So when the player equips the sword, so sword.equipped, connect function, close parentheses, enter. You could play a sound here if you wanted to, like to signify, like, you know, when you're equipping a sword. When the player is equipping the sword, if you wanted to do that and stuff, as well as for when they're unequipping it. But anyway, so we'll say sword equipped is equal to true. The player now has the sword equipped. Again, we're going to check this on the server side. This is just simply for the client side and everything and stuff. But let's say an exploiter bypasses this, then it doesn't matter. It'll be verified on the server side. Then the opposite sword dot unequipped connect function close parentheses enter. Then sword equipped is equal to false, right? Then we will set up our UIS function. We will say UIS dot input began connect function in parentheses put input comma processed enter. We will say if input dot user input type is equal to enum dot user input type dot mouse button 1. That's pretty much when you're left clicking and not process. Uh, Pretty much if process is set to true, that means the player is currently typing in chat. Like let's say like you click your mouse while you're like having a conversation with somebody, like while you're typing. Obviously, you wouldn't want to use your sword mid conversation. So we're gonna say and not process enter. Then we'll run some checks real quick. So if attacking or not sword equipped. Again, we're going to check this on the server side, enter. So if the player is already attacking or if they don't have the sword equipped, then we'll return. We'll halt the rest of the code or execution of the rest of the code. So let's say they aren't, then we'll say attacking is set to true. And then we will get the current combo. This is going to be either 1 or 2 because we're doing left slash right slash, right? Very simple. We say is equal to M1 tracker, right? Then we will create the animation track. So animation track is equal to animations, regular bracket, M1 tracker. Or sorry, not M1 tracker. It's supposed to be current combo, and then close it with the bracket. Then we will play the animation. Right, we will play the animation. Then we will clone over the sound. Remember from sound service. So we will come back here. We will say sword sound clone or spell clone is equal to ss dot. Remember this is sword swing. We'll clone this sword. So to make it sound better and keep it consistent, we're going to parent this to the character's humanoid root part. So parent is equal to character that humanoid root part, right? And then sword sound clone play, right? we will play the sword sound, and then once it finishes, so sword sound clone dot finished or ended. Connect function, close parentheses, enter. Once the sound is finished playing, we will destroy it. Sword sound clone, destroy, right? Then after that, we will go ahead and set up an animation track event. Oh, this is another thing, by the way. I actually forgot to mention this. Sorry. Okay, so for the animations, very important. You need to make sure you have an animation event. If you don't know how to create those, I will show those. I will show you how to do that real quick. Okay, so I'm gonna go ahead and just create a rig real quick. So character, I think is R15, I believe. So right, so you got your rig, right? If you don't know how to publish animations, again, I have a video on that. So if you're confused, then just go watch that. So I'm gonna imp oh, I did not mean to do that. I'm going to import my animation real quick, right? So import from Roblox. This is literally what we're using, what I'm using in the video. So I'm going to import this, right? As you can see, oh, okay. I guess it's R16. I guess it's R5 then. Okay, hold on one second, guys. I guess it's R5 then. R5. Okay, then let me import. Okay, let's see what happens now. Okay, there we go. Yeah. Okay, so it's R6. Okay. Anyway, so you guys see how we have our animation track, right? You guys see this right here? This is an animation event. So for consistency, what you want to do is you want to create an animation event for the animation when the player is like making contact, when they should be making contact with the other player, right? Right now it's like winding up the swing and the player is swinging, and about right here I'd say is where you're like you've made contact with the player, right? So literally what you can do is just find the like put in the animation where they're, making contact. You're gonna right click, add animation event, then add event, give it a name, and then just save. And then just call it hit, right? And then of course, if you're doing this, like let's say you already published your animation, you're doing this, then you need to update the animation. So what you're gonna do is you're going to click publish to Roblox, minimize this, and then you're just going to overwrite an existing asset, and then just choose whatever animation it is. So just remember which one you're editing, right? And then once you override it, you're good to go. It won't change your animation ID. You'll be good to go, right? So just make sure you have this animation event, or else this won't work, right? It helps to have. It's just better for consistency. But yeah, and then we don't need this anymore. But anyway, back to what I was doing before. Back here. So for animation event, we're gonna say at get marker reached signal. Capitalize the letter of the first letter of every word. So these markers, you're gonna put hit. Go on the outside. You're gonna say once. We only want this function to run once. Then a parentheses function, close parentheses, enter. Then we are going to say combat events fire server, right? In quotation marks, the name of the event will be combat, then comma, right? Enter. Then you can do special brackets, enter, right? You can do something like that, and then we'll do this. Yep, there we go. Okay, so we're gonna send over a table. We're going to say type is equal to, in quotation marks, sword M1, then comma, and then you can put combo is equal to current combo. This also helps with security as well, because let's say if an exploiter is just triggering the remote event and stuff every time, you still have to send over the specific type and combo. And correct me if I'm wrong, in an actual game, you probably send over something like a kind of like a code that would like only like a random generated code that only like I guess a developer or just generally the server would know, and that an exploiter wouldn't know, to prevent people from just spamming remote events and being able to bypass the comment system. But anyway, you're gonna skip the end. We're gonna increment the M1 tracker, so plus equal 1. So it'll go 1 2. It'll go 1 2, and then it'll reset. We'll say if M1 tracker is equal to 3, then we'll say M1 tracker is back to 1. So left slash right slash left slash right slash, and just then we will say task dot wait. I do want to clarify something here. I'm going to put 0.35 seconds. You guys may need to wait longer or less time. This is up to you. You can decide however long you want to wait and stuff. Is completely up to you. Then after that, we will set attacking equal to false, right? And then we just have two more functions on the client side, then we can move to the server side. Okay, so then obviously when the player dies or respawns, whatever the case and stuff, we need to update their we need to reload their animations with their new character. So we're just gonna say player.character added, connect function in parentheses, put character, right? Enter, and then you could literally just go back up and just copy this. Just copy everything except the local. So copy that, because we're not creating a new variable. We're just simply updating it and then paste. We're just updating it, right? We're just reloading the animations every time the character dies or the player dies. So then we're going to say combat event dot on client event connect function in parentheses, put event type comma arg1 enter, right? Then we will say if event type is equal to hit enter. So this is for when you make contact with another player, it'll fire from the server back to the client, and we're just going to play the sound. So we're just going to get the enemy character. So enemy character is equal to arg1, and then we can again just go up and just copy and paste to save ourselves some time. So just copy and paste this whole sword sound stuff. So Control C, Control V. Only difference is instead of swing, this is when you actually make contact. So sword hit, and then you're going to put this inside of the enemy character's humanoid root part, and then that's it. Okay, now we can move on to the server side. So let's go on ahead and server script service plus icon script. Let's rename the script to be combat script in parentheses put server. Boom. Okay, that's obviously not how you spell server. Okay, then we will delete print hello world. Let's create a variable for our combat event. So we will say combat event is equal to game the replicated storage wait for child combat event, right? Then we will create a function for whenever the player joins the game. So game.players.player added connect function in parentheses put PLR, which is short for the player who joined the game, enter. We will then create a cooldown folder to keep track of our cooldowns. So cooldown folder is equal to instance.new. It's going to be a folder. So folder, cooldown folder dot name is of course equal to cooldown folder. Then cooldown folder dot parent will parent it to the player. Then we will create a combat status system. This is very important to keep track of like whatever the player is currently doing. Now, I'm obviously not going to have like all of the statuses. It's literally just going to be either they're either using their M1s or they're not using them for now at least. So we do combat status is equal to instance.new, then in quotation marks, string value, right? Then combat status dot name is equal to in quotation marks combat status. Then combat status dot value by default should be an empty string. That means they're not doing anything combat wise at least. And then combat status dot parent to the player, right? Then we will set up the hitbox stuff. We will say player dot character added. So whenever the character is added, connect function in parentheses put character. We will create our hitbox insert. So we will then create the hitbox. So hitbox is equal to instance.new. This is going to be a part. Then we will set some properties. Hitbox.name is equal to hitbox. Hitbox dot anchored is equal to false. Hitbox dot massless is equal to true. Hitbox dot can collide is equal to false. Hitbox dot can touch is equal to false. Hitbox.transparency, unless you're testing, should be set to 1 so you can't see it. Hitbox.size is equal to vector3.new. Since this is for, okay, so normally if you're doing like M1s, like with your fist and stuff like that, this would normally be a little bit smaller, but since this is with a sword, which obviously has, like further reach, we're going to do 7, 6, 10. But you can adjust the hitbox for whatever you want. So if you want it to be further range or less range, it's up to you guys. Then we will set the color for testing purposes. Color 3.new, 1, 0, 0 for red, and then we will create our weld constraint to weld it to the character's humanoid root part. Weld constraint is equal to instance.new weld constraint, and then we will say weld constraint dot part 0 is equal to hitbox. Then weld constraint dot part 1 is equal to character dot humanoid root part, right? Then we will say hitbox.parent, we'll parent this to the character, right? Let me scroll down a little bit, right? And then we will say hitbox.cframe is equal to character.humanoid part. And then lastly, we will say weld constraint.parent is equal to hitbox, right? And then we're done with that function. Moving on to the next function, actual combat stuff. You can say combat event dot on server event connect function in parentheses put PLR, which is short for the player, then event type comma arg1, which is short for argument number 1, just a piece of information that was sent from the client onto the server. Enter, then create a variable for the player's character is equal to player.character. Then we use an if statement if event type is equal to in quotation marks combat. Enter. Then we will create a variable for our combat table, which should have the information. So combat table is equal to arg1. Then we will get this specific combat type. Combat type is equal to combat table, regular bracket, quotation mark, type. If you recall, that would be this part of the code right here. So it should be stored M1, right? So now we're gonna run a million different checks, right? So if combat type is equal to sword M1, right? Enter, we'll check to make sure they're not on cooldown. So if player dot cool, this is what I meant. We're checking everything on the server side, so there's no need to worry if like exploiters are trying anything. Cooldown folder, find first child. Fish marks, we'll put M1 cooldown, right? So if they're on cooldown or if they're currently in combat, player.combat status.value is not equal to an empty string. Enter it, then return, right? We're gonna run more checks. We're gonna say if type of, this just returns the type of like whatever its type is. So arg1, so if arg1 is not a table essentially, right? If it's not a table, because that's what it is, it's a table. So again, this is all to help prevent exploiters from, bypassing cooldowns and stuff like that. Then return. Then if arg1 dot type is not equal to sword m1, right? If it's not equal to that, then we will also return, right? Then we will say if player get attribute, and this is also just like this is just another way to just testing things on the server side, or I guess checking things on the server side is a better way to phrase it. We will say if player get attribute, if they're currently attacking, then return. And then for the last thing, we need to of course make sure that they actually have a sword. So we'll confirm that. So we'll say if not character, find first child, sword, or whatever the name of your sword is, then return. Okay, so they've bypassed. Okay, so they've went through all the checks. They're not currently in combat. They're not on cooldown, and all the necessary information is there. So we can now move on. We will say player set attribute in quotation marks attacking, comma true. Right, then update the player's combat status. Player.combat status dot value is equal to attacking. Right. Then we will create the cooldown. So we will say cooldown is equal to instance.new. Set this to be a bool value. Then we can say cooldown dot name is equal to wait, now think about it. It's supposed to be, or actually, oh sorry, let's actually change something real quick. Because let's say like there are M1s and there are sword M1s. Let's change this real quick. Change this to be sword M1. Cool. Wait, because that's, yeah, okay, yeah. Change this to be sword M1 cooldown, right? I just changed my mind about this literally. Okay, yeah, we'll do that. And then of course this will be sword M1 cooldown as well. So that we could just, I want to be as specific as possible. So we will parent this cooldown.parent player.cooldown folder, right? Then we will set up the delay function to get rid of the cooldowns. So task.delay. We will wait 0.35 seconds. Again, that's what I'm choosing. You guys can choose whatever you want, but it should be consistent with this. Like it should be the same time as that, right? Set up a function, close parentheses, enter. Then we will destroy the cooldown. We will update player set attributes, attacking, attacking, false. And then lastly, we will update the player's combat status, be an empty string. Then we're done with that function. Moving on, we will set up the overlap params. We will say overlap params1 is equal to overlap params.new, close parentheses. Enter then overlap params1 dot filter type is equal to enum dot raycast filter type dot exclude overlap params1 dot filter descendants filter descendants instances, and we will say is equal to special brackets character, comma character dot sword, right? Then after we're done with that, we will create a variable called hit part. So whatever it makes contact with is equal to workspace. You will say get parts bound in box, right? Then enter. Then we will say character dot hitbox dot cframe times cframe dot new 0, 0, -3. This is extending the range of it because remember it is a sword, and then we're also gonna add some angle stuff as well because again you can attack it like angles with a sword. So angles 0, math dot rad, and then we're gonna say 15 comma 0. Now, you guys can mess around with stuff if you want. You can change these numbers right here. I mean, I'd recommend keeping this, obviously, but you can mess around with these numbers right here and stuff. If you want to change things, you want further range, less range, whatever the case, you can mess around with all that stuff. That's completely up to you guys. But yeah, comma, then you'll say character, that hitbox, that size, comma, and for the last thing, you'll say overlap params 1, right? Then after that, we will create a variable. This is to make sure that no player is double hit by mistake. So confirmed hit is set to false, right? Then we will say for underscore comma parts in I pairs. You say hit parts. Go on the outside. Enter. Right. Let me scroll down a little bit. And then we will create a variable for the enemy character. Enemy character is equal to part. You would say part find. You would say find first ancestor of class in quotation marks model, right? Because your character is a model. That's its class, right? Then from there we will run some if statements. We'll say if enemy character. So if you can find it, this means you make contact with an enemy character and enemy character find first child humanoid and not confirmed hit. Then we can set confirmed hit to true. Then after that we can say enemy character dot humanoid take damage in parentheses, then put however much you want. You can set damage whatever you want it to be. And then lastly, combat event will fire just client singular, this specific player, comma, quotation marks, hit. And then we'll send over the enemy character so that you can play that the sound that you hit something. Okay, guys, we are done. Let's go ahead and test to make sure this works. We're just gonna go up here and then click servers and clients. I'm going to increase this to 2 so that we can test. Let's hit play. Alright guys, as always, if you guys want access to any one of my scripts or models, including this one, just simply read the description and find out how to gain access to that. If you're interested in figuring that out, finding out how to gain access, just simply read the description and figure out how to gain access. Alright, so let's go ahead and test. Okay, so as you guys can see, we have player 1, player 2. That's so crazy. I literally, it's not, yeah, I just realized I made a mistake. Wait, infinity plus player not, or wait, I knew it. I did something wrong. What did I do? Unable to assign property, C frame, hitbox is C frame. Oh, oh no, that's not good. Okay, okay, my bad, guys. Okay, go back to your main screen, and then we will end the test. So go back to the hitbox stuff up here, right? I forgot to say .c frame right here. Supposed to say .c frame, since we're assigning the hitbox to C frame, and then just make sure this is good. Sword player dot backpack wait for child sword. Okay, so that should be good. We're gonna start this up again. This is why it's important to test. We're gonna start this up again, and then let's see if I get the infinite yield again. Let's see. Hmm. I have something like this happen in another video. Player at a backpack, wait for child, sword. Which is what it's called, so I'm not understanding. Which that's where it is. I mean, yep, that's where the sword is. Infinity, let me just make sure the server is not experiencing any issues. Infinite yield possible. I'm not totally sure why it's doing that. I'm not gonna lie. I'm not sure why it's doing that. Sword is supposed to be player dot backpack. Wait for child sword. Yeah, I'm not totally sure why it's doing that, to be honest. Alright, guys, I'll come back when I figured out whatever's going on. Alright guys, we are back. As you can see, it's much later. It didn't take me like this long to do it. I got distracted. I was like on the phone. I got distracted with other stuff. I was playing a game. Anyway, so finally figured it out. Alright guys, so here's what you're gonna do, right? You see these little red circles over here to the left, just pay attention to this. These are the changes, right? So you're just gonna reorganize, so just move the character variable before the sword variable, right? Then we're just gonna say character, wait for child, very simple. So you just change it to that, and then the other changes are just down here. So inside of the character add function, we're going to set sword equipped equal to false, because obviously once the player's died, then the sword is automatically unequipped. We're going to update sword for the new instance, as well as the sword equipped function. and stuff. So literally what you guys can do is like you just have to type these two, but you can just copy and paste the quick function. Just copy this and then just put it here and stuff. And then yeah, everything. Then now we can go ahead and test. Okay, let's do this. Two clients. Sorry again, guys. I swear, which you've heard this before. It was working before when I tested, but for some reason now it's not working. So Anyway, I've got my sword. As you can see, you can also hear swing, make damage. But see this range, this is yeah, like that, yeah, that's kind of crazy. The range is a little crazy. I'm not gonna lie. I'm like pretty far. You probably want to keep it like here and stuff like that. Which if you guys want to adjust the range, it's very simple. Like I said, hold on, here, just adjust this value right here, so you can adjust like how far out they can be. But yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and wrap up the video though. Hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you did, definitely leave a like, subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Thank you guys for watching.